Hi, Tamara.
What's going on, Nicole?
So I have a question for you. Which Barbie are you today?
I am I'm gonna have to go with I am just the stereotypical Barbie, unfortunately, I feel like. I
I'm entrepreneur Barbie today.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, honestly, I have to say I love all the new Barbies that have come out. Um, but my favorite, and it's not one that I could actually be, is the astronaut Barbie. Like, my goodness.
Mm, always wanted to be the astronaut Barbie for sure.
Mhm.
I also think that my whole love of wanting a red or pink sports car when I grew up, that came from Barbie.
God
So
help
in
me if my
case
daughter wants that.
right? So in case you didn't get it, today I think we're talking about Barbie.
Of course. And now, okay, so we know Barbie came out a while ago. We get it, but we just can't help ourselves because the marketing case study around Barbie is phenomenal. I love it. And so I said, Nicole, we have to talk about it.
We
So are
have to.
you
And I
ready?
think that it's actually great that we're doing this a little bit later because we can actually talk about some of the effects that the marketing had. Because one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that marketing is not just like, hey, we want to do this thing next week. So can we market it today for next week? It takes time. A lot of these things take 4 to 6 months to even start people ingesting the marketing campaigns. It takes, we've always all heard the 5 to 7 touch points for people to understand something or to really be interested in it. And after COVID, that's gone from 5 to 7 to 7 to 12. And so we need a lot of touch points. We need a lot of time. So we're really going to start to see how Barbie, the marketing campaign and all the money that went in last summer actually is starting to trickle down into their economics.
I love it. So you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So this is what the Frack, where we break down marketing trends, strategies, and tactics in, I'm going to say now, 30 minutes or less, because that we are our go-to so that you can do the fun stuff like be creatives. We are your fractional team. I am Tamara.
And I'm Nicole, and today we're going to break down Barbie. We're going to break down the phenomenon, what their tactics were. We're going to use our fracking situational report as we always do, and we're going to talk about wins and misses and how that has affected the Barbie name.
I love it. So let's dive into our fractional report, our fracking report, and take a look at what Barbie did. So if you can see this, what we do here is we put all of our different components of how we would design a marketing strategy into a matrix so that we can look at it, analyze it, and see if we've got the best strategy. So let's start with what Barbie did, the breakdown. So the Barbie movie starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling premiered on July 21st to ensure that this movie was a massive hit. And I think that the goal was making it number one in America. The marketing team buckled down with a gigantic budget, and they made Barbie the number one thing on people's minds and on their tongues, right? Everybody was talking about Barbie. But there was also some strategic things that went into this because one, the Warner Brothers had just come off of a couple of huge flops. So there was a lot of pressure on this marketing team to make Barbie a hit, to drive people to the theaters, and also for Barbie herself to make her super relevant again. So that is our
Absolutely.
starting point, right?
Absolutely. And there were a few surprise things that happened, in terms of the other movies coming out that summer, the flame of hate that the Barbie movie got. And even since then, there have been some really interesting things that have happened in the news around the awards and, Ryan Gosling getting nominated and none of the women, with people, trying to make jokes. A lot of the hosts of the award shows try to make jokes about different pop culture references. And I saw one where they really just minimize what Barbie was all about. A lot of things have happened since then, but the one thing that I think we can all say is that Barbie is now relevant again after years and years of it being the number one toy, of it being relevant, and then it dropping from grace. Barbie is now relevant again.
100%. 100%. So, how did they do it? How did they make the magic happen? So, looking at our fracking report here, we see, they looked at community, at brand, at strategy, at budget, the touch points, the challenges. We've got the tactics, we've got the desired outcomes and the bad outcomes. So, let's reverse engineer this. What outcomes did they want? So, they wanted a solid opening weekend, right? That's what everyone wants. They wanted to drive Barbie product sales. They wanted to make Barbie something that everyone could relate to. And what Nicole just said, they wanted to make Barbie relevant again. So, how did they do it? Well, their strategy, when you look at it, really appeared to be make Barbie an experience, evoke curiosity at all the touch points, earned media, right? Like they
Mhm.
they went viral, and they brought in their haters in a really great way, which I'll touch upon later. But I feel like that was, if I could boil their
Mhm.
strategy down, I would say it was the breadcrumb strategy. They just kept putting
Yes.
stuff out there and letting everybody gobble it up at every place that they could.
Yeah, and I want to make some caveats here because I think that we're going to talk about certain techniques that they use, certain strategies they use, and there's a few like asterisks that we have to go over. One is that Barbie had $150 million budget. So we're not talking about, when we say earned media, there was money that still went into it. They didn't just, like all of a sudden got a ton of media and didn't pay anything for it. They didn't pay to play, but they also had a lot of money behind them.
Oh, I'm certain they paid to play too, right? Like so
I'm
much,
sure.
so much.
Yeah. The second caveat that I want to go over is that the movie itself was not the end outcome. Yes, having a great box office, having money coming in from the production is wonderful, but they're almost using it as a lead magnet to the end result, which is the Barbie brand, the products, the sponsorships, the co-branding. All of those pieces are way more valuable than than the money in the box office, let's face it. And then the last asterisk that I want to kind of put on here is that they didn't just make a fun movie. The Barbie movie was not just a kids fun movie. They made something with substance, right? The movie had a very intuitive place in society right now. And so a lot of people, when they ask me, how do you get PR? Right? There's a lot of steps, Tamara, we talk about all the time. Like, you have to pitch, you have to write the pitches, you have to have, things to talk about. But the main way you get PR and the way you get earned media is through having something of substance that people actually relate to, that people want to hear about, that's doing something good in the world, or doing something bad, but doing something in the world, right? So just the caveats there that I want to start us out with.
Yeah, and I just want to throw in on your caveats, like one with the earned media and like doing something of substance. The marketing team did very cool experiences, and that's why I say like this. The
Mhm.
strategy with experiences was amazing. So they did what? The Airbnb Barbie dream
Oh,
house,
yeah.
right? Which, okay, so you get earned media from that, but you retrofitted a dream house for how many millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Like nothing in this was free. Everything was clever. Everything involved money. We had the Barbie Cafe in New York, right? Where you could go take
Yes.
selfies and things like that and do, but like creating a Barbie cafe, a pop-up Barbie cafe in South Street Seaport is not inexpensive.
Not cheap. No, and you love, when we were talking about this, you really love the like earned media piece of this and how it's just, like wildfire, right? Like it just went. And a little bit of that was the Oppenheimer Barbie, like, head to head battle. The piece that I think I love the most is the co-branding, right? There was so much co-branding, like everything you saw, like Target had a line of Barbie, I mean, even things you wouldn't expect, like Airbnb, right? And Play-Doh, and like all of these places had co-branded. And what I love so much about that is that most of the people watching this, the people we work with, the people we talk to, the companies cannot afford a lot of these tactics. But what they can afford to do is a co-branding campaign where they're essentially using another brand's community and introducing them to theirs for half the price, because both brands are kind of integrated in the cost of the campaign, right?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, I love partnerships, right? They're actually one of my favorite things to do. They're one of my favorite marketing tactics because partnerships and co-branding is the most accessible thing for organizations that don't have a lot of money, right? But
Hmm.
but you bring two organizations together that have a audience that is similar, and you can expand your reach, like, instantly. So,
Yeah, and you just said it there, similar, right?
similar.
So there's a lot, you have to make sure that it makes sense for them to come together, and somehow Barbie makes sense with a lot of different brands.
Yeah, I mean, but some of their partners were also things that you wouldn't expect, right?
Sure.
Airbnb was one of them. Oh my gosh, I'm like trying to think because I feel like it was an insurance company. I'm gonna have to look this up really quick. That I forgot, but some of these were unexpected.
Yeah. I would say, but everything had Barbie's name on it. Anyone was trying. I mean, look at even the little stickers on Instagram, the photo frames, the experiences where you now in Phoenix, there at the Phoenix Art Museum, there's actually a whole exhibit of all of Barbie's outfits through the years. I mean, it's still going.
So this makes sense. I just looked it up, and so I'm just going to name off a quick list of some of the partnerships. Barbie and Vans, Barbie and NYX Cosmetics makes sense. Barbie and Crocs. Interesting. Barbie and
Interesting.
Canada Pooch. Barbie and Chi, the hair brand. Barbie and
Mhm.
Ruggables. Right? Like the list goes
Mm,
on. Oh, Burger King. Like it.
yes.
The reach was nonstop with partnerships, super clever, and just like again, it goes to that like Barbie was everywhere on everyone's mind and everywhere that they looked. It was
So yeah,
amazing.
and some of these are not just Barbie looking to like benefit from the partnership, right? Like look at, like you said, Crocs, right? To me, that is twofold, right? Crocs is looking at Barbie and saying, "Ooh, how do we get more women into our like product, into like our marketing funnel? How do we get more women?" And they're like, "Let's partner up with Barbie." They probably paid a pretty penny to Barbie for that partnership, and they were able to expand their reach to more women. Now, whether or not that worked or not is a whole nother story, but they were able to expand their reach. And then the part for Barbie is that they are now involved in another marketing campaign where their marketing team did not have to do all of the work. They did not have to front all the money. And like we talked about, we went from 5 to 7 touch points before someone really cares about your product to 7 to 12. Now you're just adding more of those touch points without the work. I think it's a pretty genius.
Yeah, and one thing I loved about this campaign in particular was we always talk about, segmenting your audience and your target audience, right? And
Hmm.
one thing that Barbie knew was their audience wasn't necessarily children, right? Like, I don't think that was their ideal audience. Their
No.
ideal audience was moms.
Hmm.
Because who's going
Yes.
to take the kids to the theater? Who's going to buy the Barbies, right?
Yeah.
Like the moms are. And so you're digging into their nostalgia, and then you're putting
Hmm.
cool things around them that then they can have the shared experience with their kids as well. So like the marketing team knew this and understood this with all of their experiences, with all their touch points. It wasn't to kids, it was to the moms.
I think you just Oh my God, you just opened up a Pandora's box there because you're so right. Like, so often, everyone, if you go online and you search how to do marketing, right? The first thing you're going to see is you need to know who your audience is. You need to have buyer personas, right? And at a very like, basic level, I see people and companies have buyer personas, but they're not using them correctly, right? So if you go out and you follow what's online about buyer personas for Barbie, you're going to see kids. You're going to see little girls, right? Like, that's going to be your buyer persona. But little girls are not the one buying it. Little girls are not the ones who are nostalgic, right? If it was little girls, then you would say, like, Barbie didn't have to become relevant because Barbie was already relevant. And when they lost their relevancy, the little girls are not going to be the ones who bring back that relevancy. It's going to be the moms who are nostalgic for a time when Barbie was like their thing, and they want their children, whether it is girls or boys, right? They want their children to relate to it. And then how do you become relatable, not just as a toy, right? Once again, they were very specifically positioned in society and making, you said they knew who their audience was. They made very big statements about society in the Barbie movie, and they did not care if you hated them for it because you were not their buyer.
Yeah, you weren't their buyer. And honestly, I think about this too with like, other clients that I have that I've done buyer personas with and usually come in after they've done this and we go, oh, okay, let's go through it. So I can think in particular of a sports brand that I did. And they sell mouth guards, right? And so the buyer persona that they had was athletes. And I was like, maybe in like your small subsection, right? Like
Yeah.
you do have some athletes that are buying their own mouth guard, but the largest portion is probably going to be youth sports, right? And who's buying a high school kid's mouth guard? Is it the high school
Yep.
student? No, it's the parent. So you should probably be getting on podcasts not for athletes, but for parents' education. Like it really, when you look at buyer personas and you look at who your target audience is, I think there's a lot of times businesses don't hit the mark in reality when you look at
Yeah.
who's buying.
Yeah. And I think that that's a great example, like athletes, right? Even if we went back to where they said the athletes are our buyer persona, great. In that persona, it needs to say who influences those athletes, because I guarantee you Derek Jeter did not go out and buy his own mouth guard from Sports Authority like down the street, right? He was like he had either people buying his stuff for him, he had sponsorship deals, or he was using the buyer from the sports league or the team itself, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, athlete is your user,
As your
it's not
user.
your buyer. Yes.
I think
Yeah.
that's something that's really important. So I think we've got the same situation here, but this marketing team knew who was the
Yes.
buyer.
Absolutely. 100 million%. Like, and better than any marketing team. I mean, whoever's on this marketing team, if they're not getting paid a ton of money, they need a raise.
So we always talk about the strategy, and we've hit on the strategy, and we talked about the budget, which was massive. But I think all too often as marketers, we don't talk about or we don't look ahead at what the challenges could be, and that's something that we've been really diligent about in our matrix that we put together is highlighting the challenges and also the bad outcomes. Because one thing that I firmly believe in is, you have your desired outcomes that you want, and then you need to write down your bad outcomes because you should steer clear of those.
Mhm.
And Barbie had some potential really bad outcomes. So, like, for example, I have here like um we could spend $150 million and they could not make Barbie relevant again, right?
Yeah.
There could
Yes.
be a global crisis or shutdown when they went to do this. And I mean, for example, actually, this happened with a lot of Broadway shows. A lot of Broadway shows that were launching or premiering during COVID, when COVID first happened, all had like catastrophic outcomes, shut down,
Yeah.
you know, because, these like huge crises weren't really looked at in the risk of what could happen because no one would think that like the whole world would shut down. And now we have to think about that. We have to be like, what might happen if everyone goes into lockdown again, right?
Yeah.
Or they can't expand the market, and it's only seen as like a kids movie, kid product. So like those were some of the bad outcomes that I
Yeah.
hope that they were looking at.
I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that going back to the 150 million, like so often as marketers, we're like, oh, if I had that budget, right? Yeah, money makes things easier, but it also, without knowing those foundational pieces like the buyer personas that we just talked about, or like, building the correct marketing strategies or tactics, you can use 150 million dollars pretty easily and not see the outcome, right? It doesn't guarantee, budget doesn't guarantee you a desired outcome. So I think that that's number one on those bad outcomes. But number two, really close, is that not being seen more than a kids movie. And I think they did a great job of having the director, the actresses being so involved in it being a statement piece that we saw the nostalgia, we saw the societal statements, and we saw people just gravitating towards everything Barbie.
100%. But
The
so
perfect storm, right, Tamara?
yeah, I mean, like we talk a lot. We look at these brilliant case studies, right? Of like marketing gone right. But marketing gone right is, I feel like 80% catching lightning in a bottle, right?
Yeah.
It's like you said, the perfect storm of everything coming together and it all working out. Like you can replicate Barbie for the next movie and it could be a total flop and a complete disaster. Why? Because a lot of this is timing. A lot of this is what's happening in the world. Like there's just so much that goes into marketing and brand awareness that doesn't have anything to do with the brand or the marketing team.
Yes. Yeah. And not to make that scary for people, but the point really is that you have to have the stuff set up, the foundational pieces. You have to be doing all the right things so that when that timing is correct, when you hit lightning, you capture lightning in a bottle, it all comes together. Because Barbie could easily have not come together even with the right timing, even with the right societal climate, right? Barbie still could have not came together. And this is why we also do the troubleshooting episodes, because we can do case studies all day long of great things that happened really like coming together, perfect storm. But there's probably more examples than not of ones that went bad.
So I'm curious, out of all the things that we've talked about, what strikes you most about the Barbie marketing strategy and tactic? Like, what did you love? What did you hate?
Definitely for me, it was the messaging and the brand targeting, right? Once again, they knew who they were targeting. They built the right messaging, and they did not care about the people who hated on it, right? They did
Mm.
not care about the men who said, "Oh, Barbie is not." They just didn't care. They did not care, Tamara. They stayed the course. They made sure the messaging was on for the people who were buying their product. And that's one of the mistakes I see very often, is that people are trying to message everyone. Oh, everyone's our target audience. We can message everyone. And then it comes out very wishy-washy and no one actually attaches to the messaging. So the messaging and brand targeting is just on point for me. And in terms of like the myth that I want to make sure is the overnight success. Like, once again, Barbie has been around since 1959. I mean, they had a brand behind them, they had money behind them. They were set up for success. Now, they could have not reached success. They did a lot of things to help them get there, but they were set up for success. And a lot of brands we talk to are not going to be set up that way. And so I just wanted to make sure everyone feels like this is a safe space, right? We are not all set up in this way. Barbie was not an overnight success. It's been around since 1959.
Yeah, 100%. I think, what really, I guess I'll say grinds my gears, in some of the talking about the media strategy is the idea of, earned media. And we kind of already touched on this, but like, I would have to say one of my key takeaways is like earned media is not free. Earned
Mhm.
media is paid for in different ways. And so we saw that here with Barbie and all of their earned media, which was deserved. But from everything that they did, like I said, the Barbie Dream House with Airbnb to Margot Robbie's, like how much they thought about her red carpet outfits, all
Oh,
mirroring the iconic Barbie
yes.
outfits that, like that was intentional. And why? Because they
Mm,
knew that every fashion outlet would write about it. Because it wasn't just Margot Robbie is on a red carpet, right? It's this
yes.
parade of beautiful outfits that made everyone want to cover and talk about the movie and then all of Barbie's products and outfits. So I mean, it's clever, and it's thought out,
It's
but not cheap.
it's amazing, and we need a moment for the outfits. I mean, ugh, the outfits, right? It's just everything. Everything is thought of. It's like Disney. When you go to Disney and you have all the different worlds, and even the garbage cans are designed to fit that world because they don't want you out of the experience. Barbie thought of it. They thought of it all.
100%. And you just said the word that's just the top of my mind for everything Barbie that they did, which was experiential. And I think this is the most important thing for marketing going forward. It's experiences. It's not marketing. It is the feeling that you get. It is how you are interacting with the brand versus just buying from the brand. And so marketing is no longer
Mhm.
just paid ads, right? And it never was only paid ads, but I'm gonna use that as an example because so many people just want so many brands really rely on the metrics around performance marketing, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
what Barbie shows us is the importance of brand building, which is very hard to quantify. It's very hard to relate as a marketer. It's hard to explain to your clients, oh, well, this experience is going to garner so much more. But you're like, well, what's the guarantee? Well, there's no guarantee. But if we do it
No
right,
guarantee. Yeah.
it's good.
Exactly.
Um, but it shows you the demand from the customer on this, right? So Barbie's taught us the demand and it's shown us how to do it right. So how do other brands replicate that and do it? It's very hard. The experiential part is, like I said, probably one of the most difficult things that a marketer will undertake and the hardest thing for your client to like wrap their head around because it's going to be expensive. You're not going to have a direct return on investment immediately, right? But
Yeah.
I feel like that's the marketing of the future.
I mean, we did an episode on the Starbucks holiday cups. We did an episode on community building. We did an episode. I'm sure we're going to do one on influencers and things like that. And one of the things that you see in the marketing landscape and in society, in the cultural landscape right now, is this urge to build trust, for people to be included and not just be told to buy something, right? Like we talked about Super Bowl ads, and in the past, Super Bowl ads were just like buy, buy, buy. And now people don't want to be told to buy. They want to build trust. They want to feel like they're part of your group. They want to feel like they're part of your community. And this experiential is just another way to build brand trust, to build brand relatability, and quite frankly, that's what's going to keep the brands around for generations and generations.
And so, Nicole, you were the one who, when we were talking about this, you've brought up multiple times Barbie being relevant again. So,
Ugh.
did they do it?
I mean, I don't time will tell, right? I think they did it. I truly believe they did it. The phenomenon had the $1 billion at the box office. I mean, their increase in sales were phenomenal. I mean, you can look at all the numbers, and if you download our situation report, we have a lot of this data in there. But you'll see that Barbie toy sales shot up 25% after the film's release. So in the near term, Barbie is relevant again. I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing it on your social media, through all of the award shows. I mean, Barbie is relevant, and Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are going to go down in history as Barbie and Ken. I mean, it's the way it is. Now, whether or not they can take these new found customers and really parlay them into a long-term relationship, that is going to take more than just a movie and more than just the initial budget. And so we'll really see if relevant is actually, I think they're successful. We'll see if they're relevant in the next 5 to 10 years.
So here is our top takeaways. And I think that we could have dug in a lot more, but since we're hitting our 30 minutes and we're trying to stick to that now, here are our top takeaways. 1, make it an experience. 2, find strategic partnerships. 3, make it shareable. And we didn't talk about this as much, but part of the experiences, part of everything they did with the partnerships, they created all of these times that you could share and create user generated content, which was super impactful in how quick the virality of their campaigns went. So make it shareable. Segment your audience. Budget is big. Can't underscore that. I feel like I want to underline it in our in our deck. And opportunity. Grab it like Barbenheimer, which is, something organic that happened during the release of the movie that the marketing team jumped on. So not only did they plan all these things, but when something like Barbenheimer happened, they're like, great, let's do this. Let's jump on it and let's go.
Yeah, that's a huge one that we didn't go much into, and I won't go deep into it. But with that, because we didn't go much into it because it was such a lightning in a bottle
Yeah.
situation, right? Like you can't manufacture that. But what they did, the piece that they did that you can take away from this is that because they had everything set, they had their foundation, they knew what they were going after. They weren't doing marketing activities that were not bringing them back to their goal, right? They weren't spread too thin. Because of all those pieces, they were able to see an opportunity in the Oppenheimer Barbie like rivalry. And instead of like seeing that they were launching on the same weekend and the box office for the same weekend, being like, oh no, instead of being like that, they were able to take that opportunity and they were able to run with it and be agile. And the one thing I see with small businesses, startups, is that so often they're just in the rush of the day-to-day weeds and they don't have their foundation set up. So they can't spot an opportunity and they can't be agile and run with it when that opportunity comes. And Barbie was able to do that.
100%. And I think we talked about that too in the Taylor Swift
Yes.
NFL. That was another case of running with opportunity and the positive impact it has. So, Nicole, you and I both work with a lot of small, medium-sized businesses. My main takeaway from this that small businesses can utilize right away is partnerships, right? Aligning with a partner, utilizing both brands to expand their reach. Like that's what Barbie did here. It is something that is within any organization's budget is doing partnerships. You can do partnerships for free. You can do partnerships for rev share. You can do partnerships in so many different ways. Do a partnership.
Yes. Even an influencer, some sort of partnership. Love it.
Any partnership.
So for established brands, we said this, but not in so many words. My thing to take away from this is strategy. Knowing what your overall goals are, knowing who you're trying to target and who's the buyer, right? Knowing all of those strategic pieces, and then picking out your marketing activities based around those. Because once again, Barbie was not stretching themselves too thin. They were not trying to talk to someone who wasn't their buyer. They were doing partnerships so that they weren't running all the campaigns themselves. And because of that, they were able to see opportunities, jump on them, be agile, and make their $150 million stretch even further. I know that sounds ridiculous, but make it stretch even further and get more earned media and media around it.
Absolutely love it. That I'm so happy that we did this case study because I know it's late, but better late than never because there are so many good things to take from the Barbie strategy, or I would say the breadcrumb strategy. Just keep putting little things out there for people to pick up and bring to you, and eventually you're going to get success. So, with that, we are What the Frack. We are your fractional team. Subscribe to us. Follow us on social media.
Yes. And don't forget to download the situational report where it has even more information and teaches you how to think like a fractional executive. Happy
All right.
marketing.
Happy marketing. See you next time.